There's sort of like, there are telltale signs. Obviously, if you're feeding your kid something that's going to kill them, that's extremely different than how you're raising them.
Correct.
Correct. Correct.
Did you see the recent vitamin K study?
No.
I was always wondering why the 8th day. Why do we circumcise?
Oh, that's not recent. Yeah, circumcising before the 8th day, you lack vitamin K, and you need.
Right. It peaks at the 8th day.
Like it peaks at the 8th day, and the nerve endings are also the lightest. After that, it gets more painful.
Right, but we only discovered that like relatively recently.
Yeah, about 25 years ago.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting, you know. God has a plan.
I haven't seen Ryan. Is that the Ryan we know? Oh, maybe.
Where? Randy.
Listen,
Yeah, that's Randy we know. That's his picture.
see it all.
Yeah. It's got time for a new topic.
You're asking me? I'm about 10 minutes.
No, Scott.
Oh,
This room, he started it.
Scott, are you still there?
I don't know. I'm beginning to think down.
Was the answer the right? We've come to that conclusion?
Oh, it's clearly the left. It's a troll question.
You know, there is this so-called horseshoe theory that they're starting to converge from the left and the right, but I said historically it was the left.
Yeah, but
Globally.
the horseshoe theory is true, but they leave. I mean, Tucker Carlson is the witness of the case. He left the Republican Party.
Yeah, but he's still a right-wing guy.
Really? He wants to rip apart. What's he conserving? He wants to rip apart every foundational.
Wait, are we talking about the United States or are we?
This guy, what about the guy running for Congress in Florida that says the only real battle in the world's a Republican? That I see worth fighting is fucking, exterminating Israel. I mean, I would sign up tomorrow and go fucking put boots on the ground and go fucking kill Israel.
Oh, is that Plattner?
That's Dan
No,
Bilzerian. He's
Plattner,
Republican running for Congress in Florida.
No, this is the opposite. Planner's on the left, allegedly, and he's
Yeah.
right.
But he said the similar things.
Planner
know,
is
what
going to get beaten by the greatest political survivor in American politics, Susan Collins.
If we're making a distinction, wouldn't it be best to just see where the modal Jewish person, what their view is, where they line up in terms of their voting habits?
A modal Jewish person?
Yeah, like the typical, like who the typical, like which side the typical Jew votes for.
No, that would be.
I would assume.
I don't know what the typical Jew means.
So the average person who is Jewish in the United States, do they vote? I would assume that they would avoid voting for the people who hate them, right? I mean, that's what black people do. They
Also,
vote
that would be a
for
bad
the people who
assumption.
hate them.
First of all, black people do vote for people that hate them. They vote for Democrats all the time.
Well, they don't because black people like black people vote for the party that like best represents their interests.
Oh, but they don't. But that's a whole separate topic. But
they do.
No,
They do
don't.
as they
don't.
define their interests, right?
Okay, so they and they're wrong. So it's a
Well, how can you can't tell people that they're wrong about their interests? You don't know their interests better. That's patronizing. You don't know their interests better than they do.
Okay, so let's get to the main point. The reason why that's a bad litmus test is because people vote for a cacophony of reasons, including being incorrect about things and including inertia. There's many reasons. So if you go to the average voter, you would have to then go deeper and say, why did you vote for this person? And they would say, yes, we had problem X, but I had Z, A, and D, C that I voted for. So it's not it might be a decent starting point, but it's far from a conclusive evidence of people voting on the left, and the left is less that.
I think people are pretty good at picking up who hates them. For instance, we just had the release of Sam Tannenhouse's book on William F. Buckley, which was approved by the Buckley family and William F. Buckley himself to write, and he got access to all of his documents, right? William F. Buckley, when he was in high school, in prep school in the United States, he was writing in defense of Jim Crow. His family was running a White Citizens Council ad in a newspaper they controlled in South Carolina. We didn't know this at the time, but the black people sure knew like National Review was racist, right? And the White Citizens Council stuff that he was doing, his family was doing in South Carolina, that was not public knowledge, right? But like that was obviously sniffed out. I mean, he wrote "Why the South Must Prevail" in 1957, saying that whites have the right to rule in the South. even when they're a minority that the right to use terroristic violence because they're more advanced race. So I think people are in fact capable of discerning who has their interests at heart and who is against them. I think it is a fair heuristic in order to determine whether or not one side or the other is for you or against you.
Well, the first one didn't. It didn't address literally anything I said, and it was a terrible proof. So I'm not even sure where to go from here.
Well, sure it did, right? Because it addressed the fact that like people were aware that like National Review and that whole project was a racist project, and that's why the people who had been previously voting for Republicans, because remember, in the time that William F. Buckley was in high school, most black people would have been Republicans, right? This was the 1950s or 1940s.
Besides the fact
right?
for your anecdotal irrelevance, this is like I really don't know where to go from it.
I mean, how is it irrelevant? Because I'm saying that people's views moved based off of who controlled the party.
And you said that 3 times. It was anecdotal, therefore irrelevant.
Wait, how is it anecdotal?
Because it was one person who lost the primary. I think this is ridiculous.
Wait, but
All you proved was that Buckley. All you proved was that Buckley was a racist. How does that translate to?
Because he was the architect of the modern Republican.
This is anecdotal. This is one person you're talking about.
Totally anecdotal.
He is the person who put together the modern Republican Party.
Again,
Yeah, that is retarded. The modern Republican Party was put together by Reagan.
No, it wasn't.
And JFK would fit well into today's Republican Party. JFK would act at the Republican RNC like he'd fit right in. We have no clue what's going on at the Democratic convention.
Have you read Sam
But he's right about William F. Buckley. William F. Buckley was the largest noted intellectual at the time.
Yes,
at the time.
The only thing that was wider and more fringe was the John Birch Society, right? And William F. Buckley was to the left of the Birch Society. The Birch Society was to the right of him.
Yeah, but Marshall, how does that matter to what we're discussing? He didn't address at all the fact that there's a cacophony of issues. He didn't address the fact that the parties have shifted drastically in the last couple of years, making Buckley totally irrelevant. He didn't address the fact that even if it was correct...
I just thought he was talking about Buckley and like...
He's being like anecdotal as anything. I just really know where to go from there. I'm just gonna...
the parties, on this topic, the parties haven't shifted at all. The Republican Party hasn't shifted at all. Not in terms of
completely shifted. Where have you been? The Democrats
they haven't shifted at all.
Okay, that's okay. Sure, no problem.
Not on this topic, they haven't.
Sure.
This has been a consistent topic. I mean, they're gutting the Voting Rights Act. They haven't shifted at all on any of this stuff.
I mean, if you think that gutting the Voting Rights Act is a racist thing, we literally have common language.
I mean, black people definitely feel that way, 100%.
Yeah, the Democrat Party has convinced a couple of low information black people of that.
But
it's the most racist, vile. But listen.
Wait a minute.
Racist, listen, no,
I'm not low information though.
But it's the most racist of vile stupidity to claim that.
I just brought up the Sam Tannenhouse book, which I guarantee you didn't read.
It is the most vile, racist stupidity to assume that black people are incapable of getting voter ID, and it's somehow a racist thing to say.
Wait a minute.
About it's stupidity to that.
Wait. Why would you need to? What does gutting the pre-clearance statute of the Voting Rights Act in 2013 have to do with getting voter ID? That's not what the law was.
Right, sure. You just the Republicans are just secret racists. You're right.
No, they're not secretly racist. They're openly racist.
Sure.
I'm not saying they're secretly racist. I'm saying that one of the parts of the three-legged stool was anti-civil rights. That was one of the main parts of the three-legged stool. When Buckley was in college at Yale, there was an exchange program at Yale to bring black students from Morehouse and Spelman to Yale to visit and have an exchange during the civil rights movement. And Buckley was the editor of the student newspaper, and he was totally against that. He didn't want to have black kids, and he made clear that he was against it. He was an unreconstructed segregationist. His mom was from the Deep South. That's what he was.
Okay, I guess you proved it. So when the DSA takes over the Democrat Party and they openly say that anti-Jewish symbols and they hide behind Zionism, but they say openly Jewish symbols and anti-American things, and they're using the Jewish cause as their way to claw anti-American, to smuggle in anti-American ideas. Then because of Buckley, then I guess the left is good for Jews. You make the
Well,
case.
the DSA is only relevant in deeply, deeply blue places,
And
right?
who on the
So-
Democratic leadership has spoken against them?
So they're not relevant in places that are
And
not
who?
deeply.
Not yet.
And who?
Not yet.
Wait, when
And
One-
who? And
one
who?
second, let me-
I asked you a question. I asked you a question. And
we've
who?
just started. We're in a primary. They shouldn't. We're trying to win here. Like, right? We're trying to win. So we can speak out about them after we get through the election cycle. But we need to claw back some seats.
Yeah,
Win.
pretty much.
So-
If you win the primary,
No, that's
deep blue
ridiculous.
state, you'll win the general. So these
Yeah.
three will be
That's,
in
that's
Congress.
ridiculous because
That's ridiculous.
No, it's ridiculous to say that we have to win because they could be honest.
No, I'm
and
just
say. No, what Adam said is ridiculous because they could be honest and say they have no place in the party. We're not going to be giving them any committee seats, but we'd like to win, so we need them in order to win.
Wait, why would you do that?
No, you
Because
just
then you completely cannibalize the party and
No,
you
we
win.
want people to turn out in the general. We don't want to do that.
Yeah.
That's a
they
bad
should
strategy.
just disown these people.
That means you want to win more than have an ideology. I know that. We do that
Yes,
since
I
Obama.
do because
Right,
because
we do that since-
the Democratic Party isn't an ideological party. It's not.
Oh my
It's,
God,
it's, a,
they're
it's a
idiots.
bunch of different people. Yeah, I want to win. Yes,
You know that.
I mean, the wings of the Democratic Party are almost certainly ideological.
But it's not. It's no. The Democratic Party does not have a central ideology. It does not.
Okay, you're
Everybody in the everybody in the Republican Party has to say that they're a conservative. Everybody in the Democratic Party doesn't have to say anything.
Not with Trump anymore. Conservative is a bad word among all those Trump voters, bro.
I don't know about that.
It's considered a bad word.
The
I don't know about
Democratic
that.
Party has a logical purity in a way that the Republican Party never did. It's
So
just-
I mean,
it's
if
straight
that
up
was, if that was true, Republicans would win popular votes more often, but they don't.
That is-
Well, I
Democratic-
mean, we
they would get a
aside
large share
from
of
the 20th
voters.
century with Bush and
Yeah.
Trump, we had won popular votes when we had won. Those are the only two instances
Yeah, but
in
we're in the 21st
in the
century.
21st century in which we hadn't.
We're in the
Why-
21st century.
Why are you accepting the premise?
quarter of the way
It's a
through.
stupid premise. Why are you accepting this premise? He made that up out of thin air. The reason why Republicans don't win more is because the Democrats are way better at marketing. Nothing to do with the fact that they don't have an ideology. The problem is,
They have a better ground game. The Democrats.
Democrats are better at governing. Have you not seen the jobs report? Have you not seen the jobs report just now? We got 57,000 jobs this month.
they're absolutely terrible at governing. The problem with having an ideology is it takes more than a sound clip to get it out there. And
Well, what
you
you're
get all
saying-
these- then you get all these low information people that have these ideas, but they can't hold it up.
So if we look from Ronald Reagan's presidency to present, right? Which party would you say has had more jobs created under their tenure? Democrats or Republicans? This is what people actually care about. Which party would you say has had more jobs created under their tenure? Democrats or Republicans?
Most definitely Republicans, and if you're going to try to pull up your report about who was in... Okay, idiot. I have no time for you. You're such an idiot. If you're gonna try to bring up who was what happened under which president, that is the directional error of like.
Wait, are we just defining just the president or control of Congress? Like, there's
Just the
so many
president.
variables.
We can, but this is a long period of time. This is a long period of time. So
Yeah, but
Congress
it
has
takes-
been.
I know, but hold on. The president has so little control over the economy.
Is it,
Then it should be fairly even, right?
No, Adam, I just one question left for you. Do you ever get sick of being so wrong in all your predictions and being proven wrong over and over? Like, are you embarrassed?
I would think that if this was the case, right? If the president didn't matter, then because like Congress has been controlled by the party in
No, but don't be stupid.
No, but fiscal. Hold on. What I was trying to say is fiscal policy is such a smaller driver than. My brain isn't working right now. I hate aphasia.
Are you eating?
Governments. Yeah, no. what the government spends.
Which one? Do you eat it? That's why your brain's not working.
That's totally what I said.
Was that a joke?
No, I'm being serious. Did you eat?
No, there's two policies. One is fiscal policy, which is the Fed, and the other is what's the spending policy. The $7 trillion federal budget, compared to the total, it's more about what the Fed does and less about what the government actually spends that controls the economy. Sorry, I'll shut up for a moment.
We're talking like 50 years.
Good idea, because if you can't speak, it's a good idea to shut up.
It's difficult when you say just the president. I mean,
You should take your own advice and shut up.
But then again, if the president has a little to do, the numbers shouldn't be skewed between the two, right? They should be fairly consistent.
Just shut up.
Right? We shouldn't see big swings.
Well, do you think maybe we should do a room explaining correlation versus causation?
Separate room.
But why is it always in one direction? I think this is a lot of cope. That's why we're getting the answers that we're getting.
Yeah, if I can just comment really quickly, is this has been studied ad nauseum that the economy overall does better when there's and I am not a Democrat. Let me caveat that I'm not a Democrat, but the economy, going back to the Great Depression, does better overall when there's a Democrat in the White House and the Dems control at least one body of the Congress. And the reason, again, this has been studied and people try to come up with theories. The reason is Democrats are willing to spend their way out of a bad economy. Or more willing, let me rephrase that. Democrats are more willing to spend their way out of a bad economy than Republicans seem to be. But
Daryl, that is correct.
Yeah, my lifetime austerity than to excess spending. Aside from Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the excess spender of my lifetime in my party.
Yeah, but we're not in a recession. So Daryl is correct.
No, I'm not saying we're not in a recession. I'm just saying, in my lifetime, there is only one president who has not tried austerity, and it's been Trump. You know me, dude. I'm more of a fiscal conservative than a lot of people, but we don't have a leg to stand on that anymore.
The difference is from Ronald Reagan's presidency, which was the only Republican presidency with a significant increase in job production since beyond him. Republicans have created 17 No, it was terrible. 17 million jobs have been created net. During Republican presidencies, during Democratic presidencies, it's 50 million. And one of the big reasons that when we're in a recession, 9 out of the last 10 have been under Republicans, but when we're in a recession, Republicans, this is the most consistent view of either party over their entire history. Republicans view recessions as acts of nature. They have a liquidationist mindset. They've had it since before the Great Depression. They don't believe in countercyclical spending. And when FDR was elected, Herbert Hoover was on the phone before he took office trying to convince him to not spend any money into the economy to get out of the Great Depression. This is the most consistent ideological position of either party. The parties have switched on all sorts of other things, but the Republicans have consistently been a jungle capitalism party where you're just supposed to let the companies that are viewed as not making it, Darwinian, they're supposed to die. And that leads to deflation. And that leads to depression when you do that in a recession. So that's one of the main drivers. The other big driver is that when the economy isn't doing bad, Republicans are willing to engage and start big, stupid wars in the Middle East, which disrupt the economy without any thought. They've done it multiple times. That's the other thing that will lead to negative economic growth, as we see with this Iran war, and they spend enormous amounts on wars without any prominent increase in taxation as well, and that's a big driver of the economy as well.
And that's something, I've never understood, economically. I don't understand why, I won't say like Republicans, right? I'll say conservatives. Why conservatives don't understand that sometimes you have to spend your way out of a home. And they push back against it, they reject it. And again, historically, this is not about how you feel about Republicans or Democrats. Just look at the data. The data says that sometimes you have to spin your way out of a problem. And, to the previous speaker, he's absolutely right. You don't, you end up with stagflation, you end up with I don't get why everyone is so locked in to an ideology when all you have to do is look at the information. It's not about how you feel about liberals or conservatives. The data doesn't lie. Just look at the data.
My thought, I've been trying to think about this. My thought on this is that the conservative movement is fundamentally not interested in growth. They're interested in distribution of what already exists. That's why they have pretty, fairly anemic job growth and GDP growth in their presidencies, but they're focused on top marginal tax rates and business tax rates, right? They're focused on making sure those who have the most keep the most and get more, and not on how do we increase growth in the economy overall. They have slower growth rates over these periods than Democratic presidents do, because their focus is on how to get more money to rich people. And the richer you get, the less money you spend in an economy that's mostly about our consumer spending, right? Rich people don't spend that much because you don't have to spend that much when you're super rich in order to maintain your lifestyle. You can have a very lavish lifestyle if you make a ton of money and not spend a lot of money in terms of your net worth, right? So you just save it. So I think that's the pretty consistent thing. They've kind of always been the party of large incumbent businesses since industrialization, and obviously large incumbent businesses have lots of.
Since at least McKinley. I said since at least McKinley.
Yeah. And since those people are
Wait,
not money,
Marshall, it makes no sense. Listen, I'm not disagreeing with you, Adam. I'm saying this respectfully. But if you look at both sides of the aisle, both sides enrich themselves. Look at Nancy Pelosi. She's increased her net worth by millions, plural. And she didn't help me, she didn't help you, she didn't help anybody else but herself and her husband. So I think it goes on both sides of the aisle.
We're talking about the policies that the parties pursue, not individuals. So what I'm saying is when we are in a recession, Republicans do not believe in Keynesian economics. They remember when we had 2008, Republicans wanted us to be like the UK. They wanted us to not spend, right? They wanted us to just gut it out. And what gutting it out means is lots of people lose their jobs, and as they lose their jobs, they stop spending, and as they stop spending, it gets worse, and it gets worse, and it gets worse, and more people lose their jobs, and then more people stop spending. It's a cycle, right? They don't believe.
I don't think people understand. Unemployed people don't pay income taxes because they have no income tax. Personal income tax is the #1 revenue generator for this country. This is why we have the deficit that we have, because we're not collecting enough revenue through personal income tax, so we have to issue debt. And the debt is to cover the deficit between our spending and what we're not collecting in income tax.
Don't forget that debt is at tremendous interest.
Correct. We're told by Trump, we don't have money for single-payer health care because we're in a war. A war nobody wanted. A war nobody had a chance. You just woke up one Saturday morning and we were at war with Iran. That's literally what happened. There was you went to sleep on Friday and it was normal. Relatively normal. And you didn't know anything. There was no talk about this during the campaign. There was nothing. and then you woke up and we were at war. And there's always the green eye shade accountants when you ask to spend something on Americans. But if there is a war, especially if it's in the Middle East, if there is a war in the Middle East, it is infinity money. They will spend infinity. They do not care about how much it costs. They're not trying to pay for it. It's just like let the money cannon go.
Adam, let me ask you a question. Adam, let me just ask you this question. And I don't disagree with what you're saying. Do you feel that Trump wants to end this war at any point, or he really doesn't give a shit? Because to me, I still don't even know why we went to war.
I mean, I don't know why we went to war. Does he want to end the war? I mean, he can want to end it, but let's be honest. This seems like I'm not positive, but I think this was kind of illegal what he did. Like when I don't think you're allowed to knock off the leaders of sovereign countries like that. And by doing it, like they're not gonna let you out, right? They're not just gonna end the war.
Do you think it was a test?
You want to?
Do you think Venezuela was a test run by Iran?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think the difference between Venezuela and Iran is that Venezuela is like a shallow, like kind of dictatorship where the people just got there, right? Like, I don't get the sense that the people in Venezuela like super care about their leaders like that. But Iran is like one of the oldest countries in the world, right? They have a sense of nationalism which is unlike ours. It's like super old. They've thought of themselves as a nation for like centuries, tens of centuries, right? So they're like not. It's not the same, right? These are people who just like fight all the time. People in like the New World, like they don't fight wars like that over here.
Well,
right? We're not like that.
Iran was really quickly. Iran is that, and this ties to Venezuela, right? Iran was selling oil outside of the petrol system, and that's something that can't be allowed. Venezuela is about controlling oil on the western, or controlling natural resources on the western hemisphere. It wasn't really about, think about it, right? After we went in, no one was talking about fentanyl anymore, right? Now we're talking about oil. The global energy chain is a big part of this. Iran was selling oil to China in RMB. That means they're selling money outside of the petrol systems, which means if you
that's the renminbi, right?
Yeah, the RMB, yeah. So it's under renminbi. So Iran's selling oil out to China in Chinese yuan. China starts now thinking, hey, maybe we don't actually need the US dollar as the world's reserve currency because it affects 3 different markets. It forces countries to hoard dollars. They usually hoard these dollars by buying US Treasury notes because the United States has never defaulted on its debt. So if I'm a country that needs to buy oil, then I'm very likely going to be buying US Treasuries. Because go ahead.
I just want to ask you a question because I know David's been trying to jump in. What's the exit strategy out of Iran? Is there an exit strategy?
There's no strategy.
It's called taking our toys and going home.
A failed state.
Yeah, look. At the end of the day, this was a horrible. Look, you understand something. They made a big down payment on the Trump administration to go into Iran. A lot of his backers did. And I'm not going to name who those people are, but they put a big down payment for us to go in there. Okay, and he thought he could do Venezuela 2.0. In fact, he was relying on. You understand something? He's not a war president. He's not a president that understands strategy. He wasn't in the military. This is a real estate speculator, right? And so.
A draft dodger.
And a draft dodger multiple times. Yeah. So he basically got buffaloed. In my opinion, he got buffaloed into going in there. And when he broke it, like Colin Powell used to say, when he used to advise Trump Sr., especially about taking out Saddam Hussein. He says if we go in there and break it, we own it.
Bush.
Right?
Bush Senior.
Yeah, that's what I said. Bush Senior. Yeah.
You said Trump Senior. It was funny.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Bush Senior. I'm sorry. Sorry, man. I'm like still early in the morning. I need more coffee. Yeah, no. So we've always had a strategy, but when we went in, also think about it. We were also the most powerful. We were way more powerful, in my humble opinion, with Bush Senior as a nation because we just conquered the Cold War. But what did Bush Senior do? He said, "Hey, we got to take the Saddam guy out." There's obviously talking points about did we let Saddam go into Kuwait and do we set the guy up? But even with that said, we still went to our allies and said, listen, allies, we got to go in and take this guy out. So we're going to put together a coalition. And that's the difference here. Instead of Trump saying to the nations, instead of pissing off our allies and trying to go after Greenland and all this other shit that he was doing, our 70-year, architecture that was built after the Cold War, instead of saying, hey, we need to go in and take this guy out because he's got nukes, we got to defend our friend Israel as well because they can't go it alone. Are you guys in? And are you guys in? And this is the strategy. How many troops are you going to commit to? Instead, he bought this cockamamie idea that we're going to decapitate the head of the snake. There was a New York Times unleashed an article that broke a story that Ahmadinejad was kind of he was kind of a mole within the IRGC, and that we were going to reprop him up as the new leader, the de facto leader, after we took out that leadership of Ayatollah and his other officials that ran the government. Well, apparently that plan fell apart. We didn't have our Kelsey Rodriguez the way we did in Venezuela, and now we're left with an even more reactionary regime because the guy in charge now lost his parents, lost his wife, lost his kids, and these decapitation efforts. So now you got an even more rabid Iranian leadership.
Yeah, so he's mad. He's not just going to let us out.
Correct. Exactly.
If I was running things and you killed my family, yeah, I'm not going to just let you go home.
So
I'd also say we've lost our story, right? America is just a story. It's a creation. It's an experiment, right? And I think the way that Trump has prosecuted this war has shown it's like if you knock the bully out in the playground, they're not the bully anymore. Right, and that's really the biggest loss of this whole thing. Of people don't take us seriously. Everything is a joke. We're perceived as inept, as ineffectual. Like that. This has long-reaching impacts, way beyond this war and this interaction. Literally, the emperor has no clothes. We've lost our story. And how do you get that back? Well, how do we get to the point that Iran, people around the world are saying, wow, why do we believe Iran's take of what came out of the negotiations more than we believe the United States? That is a death blow. We only have our narrative. That's what we got. And a whole bucket of consumers. And we're strangling both.
I think what happened here as well is that no one was sold on this, right? So there was a lot of pushback on Venezuela because it was super quick, right? So it's over, it's like, you're like, whatever. But what you have to understand is that the average Venezuela, I'm sure that he's getting pressure from like American people who are Venezuelan extraction. It's kind of like Cuba, right? Cuban Americans care that like the Castro regime and the communists in Cuba. I'm Jamaican. I don't give a fuck who's running Cuba. Neither does anybody else in the Caribbean, right? Like, I'm not trying to die or fight to liberate. I don't care, right? And most Americans are not Cuban, right? And they do not care who's running Cuba. Subsequently, most Americans are not Middle Eastern or Jewish, and they do not care about Iran. They just don't. They do not care. So, if there is going to be a war, you've got to show that Americans are at risk. You've got to, like, get them to feel some. Nobody felt like they were going to be at, like, they were just, like, saying that we were going to get nuked. Like, we have nukes. We understand what mutually assured destruction is. We're not worried that we're going to. Nobody is actually worried that America is going to get nuked. Is Iran a threat to Israel? 100%. I believe that they would kill every single one of those Israelis if given the opportunity to do so. Right? But most Americans don't care about old world conflicts. They don't care that India and Pakistan are at each other's. They don't care. They're not Indian and they're not Pakistani. That's a blood feud between two nation states. And if you're not related to either part of those nation states, why do you care? And that's what I think people are missing. You're not going to tell people that it's un-American to oppose a war when nobody in America is running around thinking Iran is going to nuke us. That's not reality. You could make the argument that if you think that Israel is at such risk, you could make the argument that Israelis could migrate to the United States, right? But I don't know that you're going to be able to sell to people after what we've been through in the past 15 years with COVID and everything and stagnant wages that they need to, and two wars already that went shitty in the Middle East. I don't think you're going to sell to them to go to another war. And this time, there wasn't even a 9/11 to precipitate it, which is why you saw that there was no bump the day we went in. None. Because people were not buying that we were at risk. Because nobody, if Iran was such a threat, that would have been a major part of the campaign. And it wasn't.
Hi, Andrea. Welcome.
Hey, happy pre-4th. I'm just trying to get caught up on the conversation, but I think it's interesting. I was just having this conversation about how much, noting how unpopular, of course, the war is, but also being struck by there is an animated enough base that is against the war, but in particular against the attacks on Palestine that are making waves. There are enough of people in that base that care enough about it that are also anti-war, but they most definitely care enough about it to have an impact on elections and races and the current dialogue. And what I find interesting is where that sits and who it is, because I think that when you talk to different populations across the country, that ranks as less of a priority for, say, a lot of young people in places like Colorado and North Carolina, but in a lot of, I wish I had the breakdown of this. I don't have access to the data right now, but I was looking at this, and there are, for New York, East Coast state, blue state, people are super animated around this issue. So I don't think that it's true that people don't care about these things, but I think that people care, and they don't want us taking these actions in the world anymore. And in terms of Denise losing the story, people don't believe a lot of what this administration says because they have been caught lying over and over and over again. So why do we believe, much?
Yeah, I think I think that is really important to think about as we think about how we exit this war. You can exit, you can lose, you can pretend to win. There's a really small bucket of options at this point. But the bottom line is we do not look like a bastion of strength. And maybe the changing of the name to the Department of War wasn't the flex that we thought it was. We should go back to the Department of Defense.
We lost. It's very clear we lost. They said that
we just lost.
Change, and there's no regime change.
Exactly. Well, and we lost. I guess the point that I'm making is we've lost more than that.
Oh yeah.
Because now there's this feeling of vulnerability and also we've lost alignment. Canada is making all kinds of treaties and negotiations they never would have made. That really just completely go around us at a time that we need more allies and better deals. We're now positioned to have access to fewer deals and of much lower quality. No matter who is elected in the next election, right? Like this was a very expensive course of action, and I'm not sure how we like what the cleanup on aisle 3 looks like.
And I think it's even more than that, Denise. It's that we squandered our soft power in diplomacy. We have shown that a massive military power wasn't able. I mean, I believe, we didn't drop a nuclear bomb on them, but we still have shown that the might of the American military, I believe, wasn't enough to stop them or to get them to back down. So, and it's almost as if you look at all this and you feel like, in a way, it's like, is somebody paying them to destroy all of America's competitive advantages in the world and, strong relationships? It's like, and there was so much incompetence involved in it along the way, and it's like mind-boggling. And people get really frustrated about privilege and all these other things, but like we literally, I mean, you see like almost criminal or lack of transparency deals going on all the time. You have non-diplomats, government, advisors who are business partners.
able to respond to this pirates, taking a public waterway and seizing it like the pirates that they are. And now I'll take any of your questions.
I would just say we did call for regime change, so it becomes an existential fight for Iran, right? Because I don't think that they're too keen. I mean, they killed a bunch of the leaders. I don't think they're too keen to be killed, right? I don't think they're gonna roll over. If that was me and people were coming for me, I'm killing all their family. Right? Like that just seems like a reasonable thing.
I don't get
that seems like in order
thing.
if you are in a situation where a clearly superior adversary,
you're saying they're fighting for their lives 100%.
yes.
No argument.
So I don't understand why it's inexplicable that they would attack our allies, because our allies can't be touched. They're close.
They're attacking their neighbor, their innocent civilian neighbors.
Yes.
What do they hope to gain out of that?
What they hope to gain
irrational.
It's totally rational. They hope to gain a pressure campaign to stop us from doing what we want to do to them. Or what
So
the Trump
they've achieved exactly the opposite. Because by the way, they're attacking innocent civilians, nobody seems to care. But they've achieved the opposite because they've shown these allies that the IRGC is completely untrustworthy. They are apocalyptic. They are vicious. They are bloodthirsty.
Okay,
and they'll just
but
attack
are
anybody
we-
for no reason at all.
Are we
Because they can't
bloodthirsty?
attack Americans. They
Are
can't
we
stop.
apocalyptic?
Obviously not. Do you know what I mean by apocalyptic?
Wait.
They are
So
trying to bring
when
about
Trump
the
said
end of the world.
when
That is
Trump
their
said that he's
express
going to
purpose.
wipe out an entire
What about it?
civilization,
What about it?
was that apocalyptic?
Well, he's not doing that.
I'm not asking you, when he said that, was that apocalyptic?
Of course not. This is Trump.
It wasn't.
bloviating.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Bloviating.
Yeah,
Okay.
bloviating. Yeah. Well, you know he bloviates. Everybody knows that.
Well, see, but don't you think that everyone knows that means that he has no credibility?
Not at all.
I guess I'm listening to you. Hold on. I'm listening to you, and I really am listening because I'm just like you're one of the few people I've not heard anybody describe us as victorious here.
Well, you should
I'm
listen to all of the military leaders who comment on this every single day, and you would hear the same thing.
I'm sure we have different news feeds. So that's not what I'm hearing.
Military leaders.
This is
general.
military leaders from which country? Which country? Yeah, I don't think that's accurate. I don't think that's accurate.
It's overwhelmingly accurate.
Okay, that's why I asked the question. I was curious as to what you consider victory, and this feels like victory to you.
So,
you think that we are winning this war.
Is the destruction of our enemies. The degrading and destruction of our enemies. Very simple.
What does that actually mean to you, Norm? That doesn't say much.
No. We hit them militarily and take out their military capability. I think it says everything. The idea that the words military victory don't say much, I find baffling.
I mean, then prepare to be enlightened. We're just
when you
put more
set a
detail.
goal-
I'm asking you for more detail.
When you set an intention, when you go into a conflict and you don't accomplish any of the
How humiliating!
intention.
It's so humiliating. We lost the war. We spent all our ammunition.
Say again?
To end the nuclear program.
Okay, I will state the goals of the war. They were fourfold, and they were repeated numerous times. I think it's disingenuous when people pretend not to have heard them. Number 1, no nukes. Number 2, no ballistics. Number 3, no proxies. And number 4, don't slaughter your own people.
What about regime
What
change?
about regime change? What about
regime change? Would be nice, but it was never a stated goal.
That's not
what? Come on now.
Also, they flip-flop on the goals for like getting state goals, and they did it illegally.
No, it is not illegal, and it's very, very, very clear. So why don't you engage with the actual goals instead of arguing about what was not?
What I'm engaging with,
their populations now.
what I'm engaging with is the fact. What I'm engaging with is that the fact that they were so unclear. They did not feel like they had to engage the American people in a pursuit that we have to pay for. So what you say are the goals that they laid out are not the goals that I remember that they laid out, and there was confusion around that. And what? Hold on. I listened to you.
It was deliberate.
It was spelled out from the beginning.
It was not spelled out from the beginning.
100%.
Listen,
From
you
day
can
one.
listen.
day
You
one.
can rewrite history however you
I'm
want
not rewriting
to.
history. I'm telling
It
you
was
what was said from the
confusing.
beginning.
It was
Not
unclear.
Okay,
And if we
which
pull
one do you
the,
not
if we,
understand?
And it changed.
I understand perfectly.
So why did you say they're unclear? What's
I said
unclear about it?
they were not stated
Okay, let's go
clearly
through
at
them
the
one by one.
outset of this war.
Sure
And
they
like
were.
you say that there
Yes.
was no statement of regime change, but multiple people
I
on
said it
this
was not
stage
stated.
remember.
This is not like, we're not doing this like,
What?
what do you remember as opposed to what I remember?
So we told the Iranian
Because you
people
just want us to
rise up.
accept your
What they
memory.
talk about the
It's not my
Kurds,
memory, these are the
fighting the
facts
Kurds
as
at the
I'm
time.
reporting them.
These are the facts as
Back
they
up,
have
my
been restated and manipulated across the time of this.
No manipulation. I'll say it
Uh-huh,
again.
okay.
Anybody disagree with no nuke?
Projection says what?
Anybody disagree?
Projection says what?
Where we disagree is regime change.
Hey, slow down. Regime change is something that you'll notice America is very reluctant to do, and has been a failure.
I'm just saying what he said. I'm just saying what he said. I don't
He
have
just
a
tried
problem
to do
with
it in
that.
Venezuela too, and we're denying Cuba, so it's not.
Separate country. I'm talking about Venezuela, talking about the Islamic Revolution.
You know what? It's really interesting how
You know what? It's my show now, bitch.
in order to maintain the things that we hold dear. The freedom of the waterways, the freedom of trade. Hang on.
No, I'm not.
Let
Hold
the
on.
question-
How in the world
Oh, it's Marshall.
is the
Okay,
U.S.
go ahead.
Navy being protect American power?
Exactly.
I completely
It's
disagree with your claim.
revisionist history.
There's a
exhausting.
piece that I was reading about a guy named Robert D. Kaplan, who was a writer for a think tank.
I know Robert Kaplan very well.
He argued specifically
I've
the
heard
U.S.
his
Navy
argument.
is no longer fit for purpose.
I
because
completely disagree. I completely disagree.
B,
What
takes
we have,
too long to build the ships, and C, we don't have enough people to man the ships.
this is a
The
different question.
promise after World War II was that we would keep the sea lanes of communication and trade open. You hear me fucking talking?
Let's talk, yeah, but
So,
I'm also telling you
Norm,
that you're
stop.
changing the topic.
With your pesky
No.
facts. With your
Yeah,
pesky
no,
facts
not with
and
that.
information.
I'm not doing that, Norm. At all.
It's Marshallstown! Whose town? King Marshallstown!
It's a lot. It's a lot. And you know what it is?
I was
It's
eating salad. I was getting my
It's
fucking
sad.
beer. What happened? What happened?
Scott, you missed out, man.
It's just, I mean, it's something to just watch revisionist history in real time. You know, I mean, Norm would have been helpful after the Civil War to rewrite the story of the Confederacy. He would have been handy. Like, I mean, you just have to be honest. We just have to be honest, and it's exhausting to kind of like have this like bizarre like.
Whose town? Marshallstown!
Attacking us and our allies. It's
We don't care about the allies. We care about our
Well,
attacking.
you don't care, but
I mean, most Americans don't. But whenever I ask the question about who, when they say that they're attacking us, you say, who is us?
Yes.
Hello?
And our allies.
Hello?
Wait a minute, what they
Is this
mean when they say
emergency?
that they're attacking Americans
Yes.
is they mean
We've got incredible brain rot. I think the entire country has been infected with toxoplasmosis. How many camps could there be?
That's what embassy is.
Our embassy, our
That's right.
Marines,
Yes.
our troops in
Stuff
Iraq.
on foreign land. Yes.
Yes!
That's right.
Yes!
We are America.
Yes!
We're a superpower. That's correct.
Most continents
But when
in the
we go,
United States. That's
Say
what
that
they
again?
don't mean. What they
Say that
don't
again?
mean. What they don't mean is anything in the homeland.
because they can't.
Yes.
Right.
Yes!
We're not just in the homeland. We're a world power.
But Americans
we are
don't care about
competing
that.
with China.
That's
I'm
what
not
I'm saying.
gonna. You don't care about it. America cares.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying
Okay.
that war is so unpopular. When you start saying that Iranians like bombed a base in the Middle East, Americans saying like, why do we even have
That's
that
not what
base?
I said.
No, not you, but when that was the argument for why we did this, when that was
That's not why we did it.
Hello?
That's
We
one
did
of
it
the
because
arguments,
they're
right?
a threat.
Wait a minute, let
to
me
the
just
world.
finish one. Let me just finish one. When people say that, people are like, well, why do we have those bases? Or when they talk about individuals who have been killed.
We have the
who are
basis to protect our values and our economic
Yes,
interests.
Americans don't. I mean, it's clear that Americans don't care about that, right? They don't care about
If
this
they
foreign
don't,
stuff.
then they're stupid. And stupidity is not the rule.
And
You say Americans
You can't claim stupidity.
gas prices,
Should have known the law.
yeah, gas prices were
Hello?
They
were higher under Biden.
Hello? Hello? This is weird. History revisionism live.
Is here.
Projection says what?
Individuals who are non-military.
Projection says
non-military
what?
Individuals in the Middle East who have been killed by Iranians. then they start naming people who have dual citizenship and live in the Middle East who got killed.
No,
And I'm
not at
sorry.
all. We're talking
And I'm-
about the embassy.
And
We're talking about our
they're
Marines.
individuals.
The Marines.
They're individuals. They're individuals as well.
No, Adam, you're telling lies now. I'm talking about
individuals as
Americans.
well who've been killed. Yes,
I'm
agreeing with
telling
that.
lies.
I'm agreeing with the
Don't tell
bases.
lies.
I'm agreeing with the embassies. I'm agreeing with the embassies. All that stuff, right?
And the Marines and the servicemen in Iraq.
Yes.
They can't do
Americans
that.
aren't trying to go to war for that.
I beg your pardon? Well,
Americans aren't trying to go to war.
You're
I
not
mean, it's
American.
very clear that most
The command-
do not.
But neither are you. Neither are
Commander in
you.
chief made the decision.
Yes,
You know?
and it's
End of
unpopular.
story.
It's
So
unpopular.
what? So what? Nobody
Well,
likes war.
We'll find out in
Do
November.
you think we have a
He's
representative?
not on the ballot, by the way. Just for a little update. Now, can we go
I
back to
hope so. I
the
hope-
foreign booth?
Well, no, we do. It is on the ballot, right? Because
No, he's not on the
you're
ballot.
not getting any pushback because Republicans control all chambers, right?
Right.
So once Democrats take over,
pushback.
there will be none of this because there will be major pushback because the other party is not going to give money for it. It will be over at that point.
Okay, the money is not really required. I would say, although there was a recent request. The money was spent years ago on our military.
I just wanted to make one final point. So another group of people who
I
died.
hope you see that I disputed every one of your
are
points. But that's
fair. That's fine. People who are both who are dual Americans and Israelis who have been killed by Iran, right?
That's a
happened
weird
before, right?
anti-Semitic myth.
Wait, 1 second.
Who was it being finished?
Let me just finish.
No, well, let's stop
Let me just finish, Norm.
You mentioned it.
Maybe you don't understand him because you don't let him finish a sentence.
No, he's finished.
Let him
Norm, I'm
finish.
finished. I'm
I
not
want to
finished.
learn about these two.
I'm not finished, Norm.
I know
So,
you're not finished.
they're individuals who live in Israel they're individuals who have dual citizenship who live in Israel and they have been killed by Iran, right? In like those strikes they have. Americans are not moved by people who choose to live in dangerous places who are also Americans and die. That does not make them want to go to war. We had a kid who went to North Korea, right, on a trip. And I don't know what he did out there, but they sent him back in a body bag. And no Americans were talking about going to war because this American kid decided to go to North Korea and get himself killed. We are not interested in fighting. Like, this is not a gang, right? You are not a made man. This is not a gang. You go overseas to a dangerous place and you get killed. We're not riding for you for that. We're not. You chose to be in a dangerous place. You could have stayed your ass in the United States. You could have gone to any other place in the world that's not dangerous and not been killed. Normal Americans are not interested in fighting a war because you chose to go somewhere where people are killing each other. That's just what it
You
is.
can express your opinion at the ballot box like everybody else. I get it. That's not the decision of the commander-in-chief.
But that's not the point that he was making. The point that he was making is that this is not a popular war. That's the point that he was making. We know that he's a commander-in-chief. No, that's actually not true. Americans have a history. Americans have a history of coming together when there is a war or a conflict. Why are they not doing that for this one?
Depends on the war. Some yes, some no. People were against World War II.
Why are they not doing that for
Because
this one?
people don't like war. People were against getting involved in World War II. We resisted it for years, probably to our detriment.
Until we were
People
attacked.
also resisted.
Until we were attacked.
And that was a mistake to wait that long because we could have made better progress and saved more lives.
Well, no, it was not no, that's wrong. It was a good idea to wait that long because it allowed the Germans to spend some of their energy.
Absolutely false.
You don't want to. I don't know that America wants to fight a fresh Germany. I don't know that we want to fight.
It wasn't a fresh Germany.
I don't know that
Germany just took over Europe.
I don't know. No,
Militarily,
what I'm saying is, I don't know that Americans would have been happier to fight a Germany that hadn't yet spent a bunch of its men in war. I think it's best that we got it intermediate point. They were kind of sucking wind at that point.
Okay, you have a different opinion about the military. Fine.
Okay, great.
Fine,
So,
you express a different opinion about the military. I would say it's an uninformed opinion. I say it's uneducated.
Okay, we're always uneducated.
Correct.
It only takes a few minutes for you to come to us being uneducated.
Who is us?
Caleb, L, this Does anybody else want to add something to the
I will say
conversation?
this. I think when we evaluate how effective this war was or wasn't, I mean, look, popular opinion, I do think there's the sense that after the debacles in the Middle East and Afghanistan and Iraq too, we don't have a stomach for this stuff. But also,
We don't have a stomach for war? You don't have a stomach for war.
But the question is that really the threat?
War!
Have we made progress towards the nuclear materials? And then you open the can of the street.
Progress? We've blown them to hell! And back! We've wiped out 200,000 soldiers and all their major military capability. And if they try to rebuild, we will do it again! Hello!
Things which I don't know that we can now.
They're playing introducing international waterways. I promise you, the world will not put up with it. Because there are other states around the world, if they get away with it, then other states will see straits like Gibraltar and there's other straits over by Singapore. So we are, in case you guys didn't realize this, we have this all over the world. That is the point that's the decision that we may not have a choice, but that's what we're doing. This is enough, and why we We're not going to put up with it. Whether you understand why or not.
It's the worst JCPOA, which all those people hated in the first place. That's kind of my view at the moment.
Yeah, the Republicans give no reparations to black people, but $300 billion to Iranians in reparations. Amazing.
That money would not come from us. Please don't read the MOU, which is non-binding.
Amazing.
Well, what you're being amazed by is a fiction.
I'll just say I don't view Iran as a threat to America. Iran is a threat.
Well, then you don't know.
Iran is a threat.
You don't know reality.
It's not a threat to America.
So Iran has been saying for 50 years, death to America, death to
Yes,
America.
America's super strong. I'm not worried about it.
Yes. Well, then you should be, because they're getting stronger, and what we don't want is another North Korea. Now, if you don't realize that, that's yours, not America's.
I'm sorry, say that again? Say that again? Say that again?
I said that we don't want another North Korea, and if you don't see that, that is your black, not America's.
How have I been negatively impacted by North Korea?
Very, very, very close-minded. So
I'm just asking. Can you answer me?
He's answering your question. So, yeah, I'm trying to. So, what Obama's advice was to Trump when they changed administrations is the greatest threat to the world right now is North Korea. Because they are a nuclear power that wants to dominate the region and the world, they are perhaps the most unpredictable threat to the United States on the planet as of right now. And we can go into all the details as to what. Now, again, if you don't understand geopolitics, then maybe you should sit it out. Now, you may
Norm, I asked a very specific
He asked you a very simple
and I
question.
gave it to you, and I gave it to you.
It was a generic answer.
But if you want something for the government, and somehow think that you're like reparations, and if you think that you're trading this thing that you want for the government from the government for the defense of America, it's two different battles.
I don't actually want reparation. I just thought it was a funny thing to say. But
I didn't realize you were kidding.
You haven't answered how I have been negatively impacted by North Korea having a nuclear. What has happened
talking
since?
about America. I can't speak to you.
How have American citizens, normal Americans, been impacted negatively? What has changed since North Korea got a nuke? What has changed specifically for Americans living in America? Please explain.
The threat of nuclear Armageddon from a rogue and unpredictable state.
So they've nuked us?
Can I ask a question? Wait. Can I ask you?
Okay, you don't understand what the
Hold
word
on,
is, right?
hold on, Norm. Can I ask you? I want to ask you a very sincere question. I'm gonna slow down. I'm gonna take my breath.
Questions rather than finishing any one time.
I'm gonna take a breath, and I'm gonna ask you a very sincere question.
So, by the way, America is within striking distance of Pyongyang. Now, if you don't see that as a threat, America does. It's your lack to not see North Korea as the threat that it is.
Okay, can I ask you a question now?
Now let's change topics.
Do you think that America threatens other countries? What do you think about we're gonna take Canada as the 51st state? We're gonna seize Denmark. We're gonna seize whatever. But how do you? No, Greenland. How do you think about that? How do you think about that and how that presents us to the rest of the world? So the rest of the world should ignore it?
Well, we're not going to do it, so it's just...
The question I'm asking is, should the rest of the world ignore it?
I can't tell the rest of the world what to do. It's silliness, it's bloviating, it ain't going to happen. It's Trump talking nonsense.
So, no, because you're saying when these countries say death to America, that we should be panicked, right? That was one of the things that you said.
No, not panicked. We should take them seriously.
We should take them seriously. But they shouldn't take us seriously when we say things like, we're going to wipe a civilization off the face of the earth.
So the difference is that Iran has nuclear weapons.
We have nuclear weapons. So when we say we're going to take Greenland, when we say we're going to do that, I'm not letting you change the subject.
Hang on, you're not going to let me or not let me do anything, in fact. So, yes, we're not attacking other nations. We're not threatening with nuclear weapons, and we have not been killing Americans for 47 years. That's the difference.
Inconsistent.
If you don't take the threat of Iran seriously,
that's not what I asked you. That is not what I asked you. What I asked you, that's not what I asked you. What I asked you is, should the rest of the world take our threats seriously? That's my question.
And what did I say? I do want to hear from you.
Sunshine, go ahead.
Hang on, I want to finish one conversation before we keep skipping around.
You're not engaging. I asked you.
I am engaging.
So you just said it's bloviating. I asked you, should they take us seriously when we say things like that?
What do you
think?
Should
they care?
What do you think?
Should they care? I know what I think. I was asking you what you think. Because I'm trying to find a consistent arc through what your arguments are. So you say, when they say something, we have to take it seriously. We have to...
Breaking news for you, Denise.
Oh my God.
You're an American. I'm an American. So yes, threat to America, bad. Is that easy enough for you?
That's not what I said. See, you're actually engaging in a point that I didn't make.
No, I'm not.
Listen to me.
I'm not engaging with a point.
Listen to the point that I'm making. You're not enlightening me of anything. You are inconsistent in your philosophy.
No, I am America
that they should be held accountable.
Bad.
And I think threats to Denmark is bad. Then threats to Greenland is bad. Threats to Canada is bad. And guess what? They say bad too. But what I'm saying is,
Okay, fine.
What I'm saying to you is that it's bizarre that you only consider that you have you have nothing to say about the threat that we represent, the instability that we represent in the
No, we
world.
represent stability. It's the
The
opposite.
Strait of Hormuz is closed. We don't represent
Hormuz is closed
stability.
by pirates. Eventually, we will introduce.
Go ahead, Shai. Go ahead, Shai.
Okay, so you're not the one that's not paid, not me.
No, I just disagree. I'm not.
Okay. Look at it.
Back and forth.
This is weird.
My point to you. My point to you is you have not answered my question.
Hello?
And that's what I wanted to understand.
Let's hear it one last time.
I don't know because
What does Europe think of us? Is that what you're saying?
I didn't say. I literally just asked a very simple question.
Yeah.
Should we be held accountable for what our leadership says? Does that diminish how we are perceived in the world? That's
Sure,
it.
they held us accountable.
That was the answer. So that you answered my question.
We
That's
didn't
it.
kill their people.
Shy, go.
So, and they don't have nuclear weapons which we're going to attack them with. And by the way, we're not going to attack them with nuclear weapons. Iran is, and they've said it many times. So a nuclear threat from Iran or North Korea, not Iran, the Islamic Revolutionary Genocide Corps. They're committing genocide all over the world. It's another reason for us to stop them, by the way. So a credible nuclear threat from an apocalyptic enemy is not the same as El Trumpo from Queens bloviating saying, we should take Canada.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't care if Iran kills some people. I don't care at all.
They don't even get mentioned in the same breath. And
Shy.
it's not serious to
Okay,
ask that
great.
question.
Heard you.
It's
Shy, go ahead.
It's not serious to ask that question, Denise.
Okay, Shy, go ahead.
Thank you. So, as far as anything of, as far as like answering the questions go, I looked it up, and the transfer moves are as of today open, but they have restrictions because of restrictions by the current government of Iran.
So they're not
and as far as Trump goes, I personally agree with you, Denise. I do not think that the President of the United States should be bloviating without a cause, right? That they should, have a higher standard and be representing.
I agree with that too. I think he should not be bloviating. So I'm on board with that.
And representing America in a better light. With that said, I do not believe that past presidents have such an example, right? They set us a better example for as far as American leadership went, because they represented themselves and the country in a better light than the current person sitting in the White House, in my opinion, right? That's my opinion as a citizen. And I think that we in America have to understand that there are people around the world do not play by the same morals and rules that we play by, right? They are not consistent in their morality or their philosophies, because it is about the desire of many of the individuals who run those countries, how they view the world should work, right? And all of it is, right? Even America, even our systems of equality and our morality, all of those things are by our national ethos, our philosophies, and our desire. Right? There's nothing that says in the world before America took control of this, before World War II, was a world of chaos. It was a world of extremes. It was a world of death and destruction that people really don't remember anymore, because we've lived in such a